So from a monetary perspective, as I shared before, I feel that the risk is very limited. You try a product and that's it. That's a finite amount of risk that you take. There's nothing else more that you can lose, right? Then you think about other costs, right? Like, your face, like, oh, you do MLM. And I really thought about it. So I said yes, but then I thought, okay, what is the risk of my personal reputation to do this, right? And if you see it as a business, I think your mindset changes. So you don't say you're a salesperson, right? You're a business owner. And there is pride in being a business owner. Yeah, you can't be embarrassed about it. If you're embarrassed about it, then people will be embarrassed on your behalf. So that's something that you have to work on yourself, and you must have clarity about that to indulge in it. And I guess for me, it's also quite a difficult position to be in because I work in a very corporate environment, and it's quite frowned upon when people think you're selling. So actually, I feel I have a very high personal reputation to jaga, but then I thought about the returns, right? And this is infinite. Why is infinite? Because any return over zero risk is infinite, ma. And I also thought about, what is the risk of not doing this? So the risk of not doing this is that I still stay in my job, which is not a bad job, it's a good job, but it comes at a cost. So what do they pay me for? They pay me for my time away from my children. And as I shared with you before, being a mom is absolutely the most important identity for me. So they're paying me for time away from children and family. Is that a cost that I'm willing to take? Not for very much longer. And in a lot of our work, not just in my industry, I know that the stress that is on you to perform every day, or just the fear of not losing your job the next year, or being made irrelevant because somebody somewhere is cheaper and better, that constantly plays on your mind. And I tell you, it's not for, it's everyone. Even my boss and my boss's boss keep thinking what keeps them awake at night is how to stay relevant, right? And if you put all your eggs in one basket, which is employment, and you have nothing else, that's quite a risky place to be in. Yeah, so I saw that, and that's why I made quite a quick decision to try. And if I fail, then the risk of doing it is very limited.
So, you say you have kids, and then you are already very busy at work. So how do you manage your time? Like when a lot of people are coming in, they also have kids.
Yeah.
They also have work, right? And they're considering this business. How do you, as an example, manage your time?
So I must admit I haven't had it perfectly thought out, right? So transitioning from employee to business owner is a transition, but I implore you to take that transition because it's really a mindset shift. So I think what I learned from my fellow business partners is that focus is extremely important. I thought I'm very focused at work, but when it comes to business, you need another level of focus. So it's really about organizing your time and prioritizing accordingly. And I think the prioritizing comes with when you know what your purpose is and what is it that you really, really want, right? So if I were to just use a very light-hearted example, every evening, there is an opportunity for me to do networking in my industry. So if I choose networking over meeting someone for the business, then clearly it shows where my priorities lie, right? So if I say I really want to make it out of the rat race, but my actions is different from what I set out to be, then clearly there's something wrong with focus. So it's about knowing having clarity of purpose, focusing and prioritizing. And I think you can always make excuses for no time, and sometimes I'm guilty of doing that as well. But if I see other people who's done the business and the amount of drive they have to do it, I think it's always an excuse that you make. You can always find a way to do something if you really think it's important. Yeah.
So what I see Aisha doing is in between during lunches, she will actually build a business. At the end of the day, she will manage her time with her kids as well, and her family. She will juggle it and still have time to build the business. So one more question for you. You come from a non-entrepreneur background, very traditional background, right? You have no experience in running your own business. You have no knowledge of anything on supplements. So what makes you so confident in doing this?
I think it's a few things. So I think the first is looking around the room, the fellow business partners, and looking at the variety of backgrounds that they come from, a variety of levels of experiences that they come from, and regardless of that, they all make it, right? So really, it's not about how you were before or what defined you before. It's how you're going to take those extra steps to learn whatever it takes, to learn the skills that you need to take to do well in the business. And I guess I just went straight in, right? And as I did the business, then I started to learn all the little tips and tricks. And it brings me back to a book that I read early in 2019 when I was figuring out what I want to do with my life. And it's a book called 48 Hour Startup. It says if you're an entrepreneur, the difference between an entrepreneur and a wantrepreneur is that an entrepreneur actually starts going and doing things. So I knew I haven't figured out everything going into it, but I see that people before me have done it. I just, had the confidence to try and learn and try and learn. And it's just an iterative process. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.